All right, let's take a look now at how to do creates, updates, and deletes with Drizzle. With Drizzle so far, we've seen how we can use it in kind of two different ways. We've got these SQL-like operators that look a lot like we are writing straight up SQL, except with TypeScript. And we've got the relational query API, which looks a lot like Prisma. When it comes to create, update, and delete, we only have the option so far of using the SQL-like operators. That might change at the time of this recording. That's how we do things. However, there might be a new API coming that looks more like Prisma in that regard. But let's see how we do things. Let's go into drizzle.ts. We can just comment out all of this. We don't need to be reading our post right now. Instead, let's go ahead and create a new post. And let's set ourselves up kind of like we did with Prisma. We'll get a constant called new post, and that's going to be await db dot. We are going to look now for the insert operation. So insert into the post table. And what do we want to insert? Well, we can pass some values to insert. The values object here is going to be anything that is required for this table to have a new record in it. We can start with title, for example. Title can be my new Drizzle post. Content can be my new post content. And what we're seeing at this point is that we still have a red squiggly here. We need to add some more data, so let's see what else we might need. And that something else is going to be author ID. For the author ID, we can just go get one from our database. So let's go over here to our database. We'll grab this first ID here, and we'll pass it in. Now what we're seeing, even though at this point with Prisma, everything was sound, we are still getting a red squiggly. And that's because we've got to do something about the ID for this new record. If we pass just a random string, everything becomes sound at this point, but we shouldn't need to do things like this. We shouldn't need to pass something manually every time we create a record. And indeed, we do not need to do that. What we can do is modify our schema, our post schema, to take a default function so that we can put a UUID automatically into each new record that we create. So for that, what we do is we reach for the $default function. And this is going to take a function which is going to return something, and that something is going to be whatever it is that generates this ID. And in our case, what we can do is we can install UUID, the standard UUID package from npm. And let's do this. Let's import v4 as UUID v4 from UUID. Then down here in our default function, we can just return UUID v4. All right, that should generate our ID for us. And over here in our new post, if we remove ID now, because we're using $default function, it no longer is required to make this call sound. All right, let's console.log new post. And now let's try running this. So we'll save things here, npm run dev drizzle. And interestingly, what we see when we get a result is not quite like what we see over with Prisma. Here we get this result object with the command being insert in this case. And at this point, we should check to see if this result is in the database. So we can go back over here to our post table, and it looks like things are there, but we didn't get any kind of info about that post back. And that's because if we want to get the actual result back, we have to call for returning. So if we call for returning like this, and we go insert another one, what we get now is that actual result that was created in the database back to us. It should be noted that the result comes back in an array in this case, whereas with Prisma, if it's a single create, we just get that single result back. All right, so that looks good. What about updating data? Well, we can do updated post, and that's going to be await db update against our post table. So still want to go to the post table. And the next thing we'll want to do here, instead of calling for values, is we'll want to call set. So set is going to, like we do in SQL, set something in an existing record. And what we're going to do here is maybe we'll just change the title up. That is updated. Let's do that. And now what we've got to do is say which post we want to update. So for that, we can say where. And where is going to take this function eq for equals. Let's make sure that we've got it in here. Yes, we do. eq comes from Drizzle ORM. EQ is first going to take what we want to look against, and that's going to be post.id, and then the value we should look against. So let's grab our post ID here, right there, copy that, and back over here. Let's now log out updated post. We're calling for returning at the end, so we should get the result itself back. And let's take a look. All right, so it looks like things have been updated. Let's check over here as well, and it is updated indeed. So things are fairly simple in this regard. We call for the same operators we would when we're doing SQL queries in a SQL environment. What we can do now is just see how to delete a post. So deleted post is going to be db delete against the posts table. And we get rid of set. In this case, we're just going to look for where it is equal to that ID. Deleted post can go over here. Save that, and let's run it again. All right, so the result comes back. If we are over in our table and refresh, away the post goes. We can delete that other one that we had created. So let's put that ID in place, run it again. Now we are back to our starting point where we were before. So there is create, update, and delete with Drizzle. Everything is very intuitive at this point if you know how to write SQL, straight up SQL. So again, at this point, we don't have the same kind of API that you might expect with Prisma, where you pass an object into something like db post delete or db post create. We don't have that kind of API just yet, but that might be coming with Drizzle in the future.